Let's go back to the governor's race for Missouri. We just barely touched on that for a second. From the outside, it kind of mirrors the national presidential race a little bit in that you've got a somewhat crowded Republican field and a fairly well-known and established smaller one mainly Democratic candidate.
There is technically a Democratic primary between Chris Koster and Leonard Steinman, who looks like Santa Claus. But you're right in that sense that there are four major Republican candidates: John Brunner, Peter Kinder, Catherine Hanaway, and Eric Greitens. And all four of them have their own strengths and weaknesses, but I would say that they're all viable candidates to win the nomination. And I would say that they're all viable potential, gubernatorial winners.
Yeah, now what's interesting is that unlike in the presidential contest, all four of them are on the same page on virtually every major issue, from guns, abortion, taxes, right to work, you name it. They're all pretty much on the same page. So where they're trying to define differences is really personally, either how they're raising money or who some of their donors are. You've got, Greitens and Brunner, who are somewhat outsiders. Brunner right now is self-funding. He's a wealthy millionaire. You've got Hanaway, who's the only woman in the race, and emphasizing the fact that she's a prosecutor. And then you've got Peter Kinder is lieutenant governor. He says, I'm the only one of these people who's actually won statewide, and I've won 3 times statewide. And so they're all trying to fashion themselves as saying, I'm the best person to take on Chris Koster, the attorney general, who is really, in effect, the Democratic nominee.
And then Eric Greitens, who is, if I'm not mistaken, the most well-funded.
Yes.
Is he the most well-known?
No.
Is he known at all?
I think he's known in a similar way that Ben Carson was known, in the sense that he's a published author and has a following. I'm not trying to, obviously Ben Carson was controversial during his campaign and flamed out, and I'm not saying Eric Greitens is going to do that, but what I'm trying to say is, when I went to see Ben Carson speak in St. Louis during the Eagle Forum convention, there were like hundreds of people who knew who he was and were really enthusiastic about him because they knew about his
Eric
story.
Greitens might be better known. He's on the late shows on the national television.
And Eric Greitens might be in a similar situation, but this is his first campaign, and we're finding out today that, because he has raised a lot of money and because people see him as a threat in the general election, I think that he's being the most attacked, and it's going to be.
Yes.
Is it going to be nasty like the national race?
I think some of it is. Greitens already has come under fire. First, he's a former Navy SEAL. So there's a group of Navy SEALs who produced a video. I wrote about this about a month ago to kind of
supposedly Navy SEAls. I think he was questioning.
I know, but it's a whole Swift boat thing,
right.
In effect. And they were challenging how he behaved and this and that. Of course, he has countered with his own video, and when he had his press conference, there was a bunch of local veterans who showed up in support. Now the big thing is, see, his biggest donor is a venture capitalist from California, and who's given him $1 million, $500,000 in 2 different installments. Well, the Republican challengers who don't have as much money, although Brunner is self-funding right now, so he's okay, they're attacking him because this California venture capitalist is now the subject of a lawsuit filed by an ex-stripper who claims that she was his sex slave for 13
Joe, you
years.
have so many juicy storylines that you are currently working on. We call this a tease in the business. I feel like we'll all be going to stlouispublicradio.com.
This show is going to have to be rated TV-14.
This is okay. All right.
So
well,
it was coming up in the debates. They're now all calling. The others are calling on him to return the money, and that was supposed to be the big hallmark at the most recent debate.